The dead children's playground. Cemeteries can be boring for children. What's a better way to amuse kids during serious times than a playground at a cemetery? Young children rarely understand death or the weight of a burial ceremony, so it can be difficult to get them to stand calmly in a cemetery. All the ornate headstones must seem like fun rocks to climb on, and they're constantly being redirected to be quiet. A cemetery in Huntsville, Alabama found the perfect solution. In a park space adjoining the Maple Hills Cemetery, the oldest and largest cemetery in the state, there is a small playground where children can run and swing while the adults deal with the depressing nature of a funeral. Not surprisingly, the playground sees more teenagers and ghost hunters than actual children. One would think that a playground built on a century-old cemetery ground would gain a sinister reputation for being haunted, but they built the playground anyways. The playground had simple equipment, just swings and a jungle gym, set into a low area of the cemetery surrounded by rocks and trees. In 2007, the cemetery began running out of room, so the city officials from Huntsville decided to tear out the playground to make more burial spots. The city received harsh criticism from the locals, so they rebuilt the playground, breathing new life into the site. Today, the playground is believed to be a hotspot for paranormal activities. It can be said that the swings will often move on their own, even when there's not even a breeze. Other accounts claim that there are often orbs floating around, along with sightings of ghostly children playing in the dead of night. All of this has given the playground a fond nickname, the Dead Children's Playground. Stoll's Gateway to Hell. Stoll is a tiny town in Kansas that was founded in 1856. Located 10 miles west of Lawrence, it seems like it's hiding in plain sight. The township has a population of 31 residents and consists of a United Methodist church that appears to be newly built, an old brick bait shop, 2 small houses that sit adjacent to the church, and of course, a cemetery. The cemetery gates hold multiple signs telling guests no trespassing, which is strange within itself since most cemeteries have visitors. Stoll Cemetery has gained quite a reputation with the paranormal community. All of the rumors, from associations with the devil to the occult, and even going as far as a supposed gateway to hell, which apparently was in the basement of an old church that was torn down in 2002 after one of the walls fell. One of the most famous guests of Stoll is Lucifer himself. Some say he appears at the cemetery on Halloween and during the spring equinox. It's believed that he's drawn to old sites where witches were once hanged, and others believe that one of the graves contained Satan's child. The first published article about the creepy happenings in Stoll came in 1974 in the University Daily Kansan, but whispers about the supernatural were happening way before that, as far back as 1900. In 1998, the hanging tree was torn down to stop people from visiting, but the absence of the tree didn't stop people from trying to catch a peek at Lucifer. Despite the signs warning against trespassers, new graves continue to be dug this day. North Dakota Gates of Hell. North Dakota is full of small towns that were once prosperous but now stand empty and nearly abandoned. One of these small towns is Tegas. It was founded in the early 1900s, but it's now almost completely abandoned. It only has a few houses and a lot of crumbling buildings. Despite this, there remains a rumor that there was an old Lutheran church that was a hotbed for satanic worship. The church has long been burned down, but people have some wild claims about what was inside. There are several claims that there was a large upside-down cross and a mark of Satanism painted on the front of the building. The most extreme claim is that underneath the church, you can walk straight into hell. If you stand in the right spot near where the church once stood, you can hear the screams of those condemned to hell screaming. There are also reports of hellhounds, glowing gravestones, and even a ghost train. If the paranormal activity wasn't enough to scare you off, then maybe the remaining residents that still live there are enough. The few people who live in Tagus aren't thrilled with the reputation of their small town. Some visitors have reported being chased out of town by a car driving manically. Others have claimed that people carrying guns have even shot at visiting cars. So if you're planning on visiting, be careful. Mount Mariah Cemetery in South Dakota. When it comes to iconic cemeteries, Mount Mariah has to be in the top 10. It's the final resting place for Calamity Jane, Seth Bullock, and even Wild Bill Hickok. Located in Deadwood, South Dakota, Mount Mariah has a wild history, just like those buried within its grounds. Most of the bodies buried there were actually moved to Mount Mariah after being exhumed from the old Ingleside graveyard. Alongside the more famous individuals, the cemetery is full of miners, original settlers, prospectors, and in Wild West fashion, sex workers. The cemetery is sectioned off into 4 sections. The children's section, for the kids who died of typhus and smallpox outbreaks along with other illnesses. The potter's field for unmarked graves from Ingleside. A Jewish section. And the final section is the mass grave site, for those that didn't have anywhere else to go or had nobody to identify them. Of course, a cemetery full of people who died from such horrible events or diseases would have reports of being haunted. Several guests claim to have heard voices and children's laughter despite being alone in the cemetery. Most guests also feel as if they're being watched as they move through the grave sites. Orbs and of course apparitions have been reported as well, making the cemetery just overall spooky.